It's now 9:05, so we'll start. And I'd like to introduce our guest, Mr. John Gill. He's Vice President of Education at the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. And he's going to be talking about the ACFE. And if we have time, we'll do questions. If we run a little over and we don't have enough time for questions, we can always email questions to Mr. Gill, so we can always keep that in mind as well. Okay, Mr. Gill, take it away.
Well, thanks for the invitation. That's very kind of you to offer some time to me to kind of explain the ACFE program and what we do. But what Allison is saying, we've got people in here in all types of different areas, which is just like what we have at our review classes for the ACFE. That's one of the things I spend a lot of time doing now is we have a 4-day intensive, similar to a bar review or a CPA review. And so I just got through doing 2 of these back to back, one in Toronto, Canada, and one in Nashville, Tennessee. And so a lot of times what students are interested in is, well, you know, what do these people do? And the ACFE, I think, is unique in organizations that I've dealt with because we have people in every walk of life. I talked to a few people like Allison that are dealing with cybersecurity. And so that's what the main focus is. But it's not one of the problems that a lot of people with cybersecurity, they think, oh, well, it's all from the outside. People are always trying to hack in, but a lot of problems that I talk to are people from the inside into areas where they're not allowed or downloading information that they're not supposed to and stealing secrets and uploading it and putting it on thumb drives and leaving with it. And so there's a lot of cybersecurity from internal threats as well as external. And we had class I did, we had people in healthcare fraud. Some of them work for insurance companies, but we also had some people that were on some federal task force, law enforcement officers, and they deal exclusively with healthcare. We have a lot of people in financial institutions. So financial institutions is a growing area for us. The last few years seem the financial institutions have really ramped up their fraud programs. They were always focused on money laundering ever since the Patriot Act, and they introduced all the AML requirements. They were focused so much on money laundering. Now they have kind of taken a step back, focusing more on fraud from within and loan fraud, and we've seen a real growth in financial institutions and account fraud and identity theft, and there seems to be more interest in that area. We have, I'm a lawyer by trade. I work for a law firm, and we did deceptive trade practices and consumer fraud. And so that's how I got interested in fraud in the first place. And at the ACFE in 1995. At that point, we only had about 12,000 members, and now we have 85,000. Most of them at that time were in the U.S. and Canada, but now we have members in 100 and something countries. It's grown a lot. I personally have taught classes in Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, India, Kenya, Switzerland, the Netherlands, UK. I've been extremely lucky because I actually I still like to travel, but we have members just across the globe. The only association that's dedicated solely to fraud. There are a lot of other great groups out there that do like money laundering. If you
Right.
are really into money laundering, ACAMS is, second to none. But that's their focus is anti-money laundering.
Mm-hmm.
There's healthcare fraud. It's there's a lot of healthcare fraud. There's several groups. One is the National Healthcare Fraud, National Healthcare Anti-Fraud Association, NACAA, and they do a great job. That's all that they do is healthcare fraud. We're the only group that we don't discriminate. We cover every type of fraud in every industry. The reason it started is our founder, Joseph Wells, was an FBI agent. And so he was an accountant. And so he worked at an accounting firm and he went to work at the FBI. He, understood the accounting part, but they had to train him to do investigations. And then when he got out and he started forensic accounting practice, then he was dealing with auditors and accountants who were out in the field and they found suspected fraud, but they didn't know how to conduct the investigation. They understood the flow and they understood that money was missing, but they never had any training at all on how to do interviews, how to search for information, what legal offenses might be in place. Should we do criminal, civil, and just general fraud prevention measure, because, for a long time, fraud was not talked about much in accounting curriculum.
Right.
So, but then when he's dealing with law enforcement people, they understood how to do an investigation, but they didn't know anything about accounting or how money flows through a business or what the different types of fraud. And so he came up with the idea of somebody needs to create an association to train all of these people in one common method. So here's the way you do an investigation and financial fraud case, and here's how money flows through the business. Here are all the different types of schemes that can be involved. And the auditors and accountants flocked to us because we're the first ones that actually had training aimed at them. Most of it was for law enforcement, and so no one was training look, I'm just an internal guy here. I don't have a badge. I don't have a gun. I don't have subpoena power. What can I do? And so we came up with a method to do that. So it's, something as an organization I feel passionately about, or I wouldn't have been there for 24 years.
Oh, sure.
The four main areas, I'll explain if you're interested in training or you want to know more or at some point want to become a CFE, there are four areas. And so the one is investigation methods, investigation skills, and it covers how to conduct interviews, how to look for information, tracing illicit funds, analyzing documents, computer forensics, that kind of those kinds of things. The legal section, it's not as complicated as most people think. When I teach the CFE exam review class, a lot of people are scared of the legal section, but we're still on a basic level. It really is, here's how the criminal system, just in very basic terms, works. How the trial process and dealing with the prosecutors, what the burden of proof is. And then we talk about, so if you go the criminal, what you're dealing with as far as the grand jury and the trial process and dealing with prosecutors. On the civil side, if you sue somebody civilly, how does that work? What's the discovery process like? Some individual rights. If you're conducting investigations and things that you need to be concerned with as far as what rights do they have in the workplace, things like defamation, invasion of privacy. If you're going to prosecute somebody, what do you prosecute them for? So we talk about things like mail fraud and wire fraud, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, and UK Bribery Act. And then just civil actions like a breach of fiduciary duty, civil fraud, conspiracy, things like that. And financial transactions and fraud schemes. Some of it is basic accounting, just talking about the accounting equation, the financial statements and what they mean. we get more into all the different types of schemes. And what I tell my students is each scheme's not hard. There are just so many of them.
Right.
Financial statement fraud is we go through all the, how do you understate liabilities? How do you overstate assets? Fraudulent disbursements like expense reimbursements and billing schemes and payroll, and then there's cash receipts and skimming and larceny and theft of intellectual property and bribery, contract procurement, healthcare, insurance, financial institutions. And it's not meant to scare you. It's more meant to it really is a comprehensive program. And we still stay though on a general level. The idea is if we can give you some examples of the common schemes, then when you're dealing with something like this, it should start to sound familiar. And it's like if you're looking at this and you're like, well, the inventory is not matching. The perpetual inventory is not matching with the physical inventory. Well, what could be going on here? Well, it could be a couple of different things, and that's what we want you to be thinking about. Well, it could be inventory theft. It could be shoplifting. It could be unrecorded sale. And so if you kind of get the idea, like when you got a red flag, it could mean all kinds of different things, and you just kind of have to work your way through it. Same thing with like contract procurement is another example. You've got one vendor, like data analytics, and we talk about that a little bit, like somewhere in what are some common tests that people run to do data analytics. But one is you're looking at your vendor activity. Is there a vendor that all of a sudden is now just off the charts? We barely use them, and now all of the contracts are going to this one company. Well, that's something to look into. Well, what could it be? Well, it could be the purchasing managers taking kickbacks. It could be different types of contract schemes, like, abuse, or it could be where they've got some side agreement to award the contract. So it's collusion between the contractor and the employee. So it's just these, one or two red flags could mean different things. And the idea is just kind of get you in that mindset of looking at this and thinking, well, what could be going on here? Then we have the fraud prevention and deterrence section. Part of it is criminology. So the criminal justice majors will have an easy time with that, just kind of understanding the concept of punishment and positive reinforcement. And, just simple things to be proactive, like mandatory vacations and assignment rotation and anti-policies and an ethics policy and things like that. Hardest part in there is all the different responsibilities that organizations have. And what we start with is just the idea of corporate governance. Here's the board of directors and their responsibilities, shareholders. Here is management. Here's their responsibilities with regard to fraud. Internal audit has specified responsibilities, as does external audit. There's the audit committee, Sarbanes-Oxley.
Right.
Just because you have to know, if you're looking at an organization, whose job is it to do what? And it's
right.
I mean, there's specific things, as you all may have already discussed and gone over, is the auditor's job is not to find fraud, but if they do find it, they're supposed to report it and go forward with it. Management is responsible for, we have a robust program here to detect violations, and the audit committee is supposed to be looking over them, and the board of directors over them, and so it's different. There is a definite assignment of responsibilities, and so you just have to kind of understand what that is. And then the importance of fraud risk assessment and risk management. How do you assess risk in an organization? You do fraud assessment questioning, and talk to people, dig down, and then how do you manage the risk? So that's we cover a lot in the exam and in our materials, but we think that it's a very holistic approach. You've got to understand each of these four pieces in order to really effectively fight fraud, investigate it, and prevent it in any kind of organization. And we have people that work for governments, state, local, federal. We have people that work for medium-sized companies, large Fortune 50 companies. I mean, the one thing that I tell people all the time, especially young people in some of my classes, like, fraud is a good business to be in. Or I should say anti-fraud is a
right.
business to be in. Because I've been at this a long time, and I've never seen a period in our history where you open the newspaper or you go online or you watch the news, like, there's just no fraud occurring.
That's true.
There's always something. It is just constantly amazes me. When times are booming, when times are great and they're booming, then there's plenty of money and people aren't checking it as closely as they were. And so they're just saying, well, hey, there's all this money laying around and there's too much to count, so nobody will notice if I take some. But then when things get lean, I've seen it go the other way. It's like, well, now people, their investments, they're not getting investment income. They're like, things are tight. And so now they're in trouble personally. And so they might start stealing from the company to help themselves. And then companies get in bad shape because they have lower sales. Investors are looking at their performance, and now they have more incentive or more need to bump up our financials because people are going to start selling our stock. And if we don't look better, and so they do it in good times and in bad times. It's just always there. But somebody needs to be watching the store. If you don't try and prevent it, then people see that. And one of the things that we teach in the fraud prevention section is just the perception of detection. How important it is for employees and customers and everyone to know we take this seriously. We're proactive and looking for what the problems are and finding them. Somebody has to be out there doing it, or it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've made a good point about that. I never really thought about it in terms of the field. There's always going to be a need. Definitely. We have about 6 minutes. I'd like to open it up for our members to ask some questions if they have any questions or comments.
Yeah, I'll go.
Sure.
John, first of all, thank you very much for coming and talking to us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm a bachelor's in accounting student, and long time ago, or not that long ago, I went through fisheries and then ecology. So I have a pretty heavy data analysis background, but I'm kind of looking to get into fraud examination through the accounting side of things. So do you have any, tips, tricks, or any patterns you've seen in the field for getting into this?
Well, we are really working hard at ramping up our data analytics, and it's a more advanced class, and we now have a workshop on data analytics. But trying to hook up with somebody, and if my email address, if you have anything or you think of something later, feel free to email me. It's easy. It's just jgill@acfe.com.
Okay.
GILL@acfe.com. And I'll put you in touch with people. The thing is to network, really find this works the best, or when you can hook up with some other people that are doing data analytics. And so I do have some contacts there, guy named Jeremy Clopton who teaches for us. He just loves this stuff. And so I'd be happy to hook you up, and maybe he's got some ideas for forums or for email lists to get on, because people love to share different techniques that work for them.
Yeah.
There's some general ones, but I know when we get financial institution people together, we started, checking these variables and doing these searches and looking for this, and it's really helped us. For that, definitely take as many courses as you can, but my best tip is to get in with a group of smart people and pick their brain and do as much sharing and asking questions as possible.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
One thing I will, before I forget, is before you get out of school, if you are interested in becoming a CFE, they have a student package that's like half of what this is on the outside. And so just before you lose that student status, if you're thinking about doing it, then if you just go to ACFE.com and just in the search and you put in student membership, it'll pop right up. But they really try and encourage student members, and so they have like a really good deal. Like I said, like really less than half of what it would cost if you're not a student. So that's one of the things. Put that on your list. If get the prep course and all the study materials before you get out of school.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, yep.
You can take the test before there's a 2-year practical experience requirement. So you'd have 2 years in the field before you can become certified. However, you can take the test before you before you meet the 2 years. Does that make sense? So even if you're a student, you can take the test, and then they will just, in fact, hold the results until you've completed the 2 years, and then you would automatically move over to CFE status. So don't be afraid of, I can't take the test because I haven't had the 2 years of experience. Don't worry about that. You can take the test, and they'll hold the results and wait for you to finish out for the experience. Any other questions?
We have about 2 minutes, so if anybody wants to make a comment or have a question.
Actually, I will. Mr. Gill, are you okay with us including your email address for other members to contact you if they have questions that are not in the meeting?
Yes, absolutely. Again,
Excellent.
if there's something I can't answer, I will find somebody. We're always glad to help. Another tip is, if you can, check out, if you're interested in this area, is check out our local chapters. They usually they're independent, and so we have them in every state and in a lot of foreign countries, and they have really good programs, and they like students, and most of them have some kind of like very, very low cost student membership. And so you can go and you can network with these people and learn about what they're doing. And it might be a good opportunity to you can get in with somebody that can help you get some experience. I know that's the biggest hurdle. And our mentor program is new. It's about a year old. And so once again, just go to acv.com and search for mentor. And we've been hooking students up and just even, not necessarily even students, we have people who for whatever reason, they were like, say, in accounting or auditing, and their job changed. And now they're responsible for fraud investigation or prevention. And so we've hooked those people up with mentors. And so if it's something you're interested in, think about the mentor program, and we'll try and hook you up with somebody, and you can talk to them about what they do, and we'll try and match you with whatever industry you're interested in.
That's really good advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank you again for joining us, and we really appreciate your time, Mr. Gill. And I'm sure if we have any questions, you'll be getting some emails from us. And I will, hopefully, if this recording worked out, I'll be sending you a copy, or at least a link to where you can view it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it was my pleasure. Thank you again for allowing me to tell you all about the ACFE. And again, you got my email. Anything you need, just let me know. Glad to help.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Good luck. Good
Thank
luck to all of you. Best wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you.